Just a heads up, sorry for the lighting, but I am doing this at probably around 10 o'clock at night, and I only have this, which is now dark, but my name is Katia Vasquez, and I am in English Composition 2 with Professor Paul Charbel. For my essay, I picked that watching film is better to learn history rather than reading a book. The reason why I say that is because for some people it can be a little hard to understand when you're reading a book to understand what they are trying to portray in history, such as how this certain thing happened in history, or how the people felt when they tried to explain how everybody felt, but you're only reading it, which in the film you can almost better understand it. Yeah, it's not going to be exactly on point to what the history said, of what a history book says, but it's going to try to show you as much as you can. For example, I watched the movie Harriet that was made in 2019. It is about Harriet Tubman, about how, history, about how she escaped from slavery, she freed almost 300 slaves, or a little over 300 slaves, the Underground Railroad, and how she signaled everybody, all the slaves, that it was okay to come in, to go in the water to be free. Which I believe that, especially for Harriet, to watch the film is a little bit better understanding, because you can, for example, in an article that I read, the stigma in your brain, and then the left side and the right side combined together, and you are unable to understand the emotion and the thoughts of how Harriet felt, how all the other slaves felt, rather than trying to read a book and trying to figure out how they felt. Yeah, you may have a little bit of an understanding of how they felt, but you didn't really know exactly. You may not have known, especially with somebody who is a little hard to understand books. For example, I can barely comprehend books. I have to read it over and over and over and over and over again in order to understand it. But when I watch a film, I'm able to visually see it. Yeah, it may not be exactly the exact history book, but it portrays a lot. For example, Harriet, the actor who played Harriet, Cynthia, I forgot what her last name is, but I know her first name is Cynthia. She acted as Harriet Tubman as a real person rather than a fictional person, and she really made the emotions and the thoughts really deep and really clear in order for us to understand it, rather than trying to read it in a book to understand it. So the left side and the right side of the brain, they work together. For example, your left side controls your right side, right side controls your left side, but they can also work together in order for you to be able to understand that film can be a lot better understanding than history, rather than trying to read a book. Many of the other things is that, like I said, people who read books, it can be psychologically better to watch a film in history rather than reading a book. However, the downside about the films is, whichever history film you watch, yeah, some of it may not pertain everything that you read in the book, but most of it that you do see is portrayed, they try to portray in the film as much as they can in a film, and rather than in the history book. So, the people read the history books and they try to make a film out of it. If you're able to see a film about history, it may be better for you, because you'll be able to understand it better psychologically. You can try to almost feel their emotions, hear their thoughts clearly, rather than trying to read in a book and trying to get it in your mind on how it works. But overall, I think that watching a film to understand history can be a lot better and easier and more comprehensible rather than trying to read a book, which mainly like some of the words you won't be able to understand, or you're gonna have to read it over and over and over and over and over again until you understand it, and you may not even understand it after all the times that you read it. So, like I said, my opinion, films are better to learn history rather than trying to read a book and trying to understand everything and comprehend everything. So yeah.